The emergency council chamber on Zephyr Prime buzzed with nervous energy. Tall, graceful beings, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes filled the circular room. Their delicate hands shook as they reviewed the latest reports. The Vrak Empire had destroyed another 3 colonies in the past week. Council leader Keth stood at the center of the room, his usually calm voice strained with worry. The situation is worse than we feared. Our defense fleets cannot hold them back much longer. The Vrak forces grow stronger with each victory. Dr. Mira, the Alliance's chief scientist, stepped forward. Her silver robes rustled as she moved. There is one option we have not tried. The ancient archives speak of an emergency protocol from the old civilization. Lan. We have not.org. You mean the myths? Asked General Zahn, his military bearing evident even in defeat. Stories of magical protectors? Who come from the dark reaches of space? Not magic, Mira replied firmly. Technology. A signal that reaches across the galaxy to summon what the archives call Deathworld protectors. Beings who evolved on planets so dangerous that they became the ultimate survivors. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the stories from childhood. When peaceful civilizations faced extinction, they could send out the ancient call. Supposedly, warriors from death planets would answer and fight for those who could not fight for themselves. Do we even know if such beings exist? Keth asked. Mira activated a holographic display. Strange symbols filled the air above them. The signal is real, the technology still works, but we have no proof that anyone will answer. The last recorded use was over 1,000 years ago. What choice do we have? Keth looked around the room. Our military experts say we have perhaps 2 weeks before the Vrak reach our homeworld. Our evacuation ships can only save a small percentage of our population. The vote was close, but desperation won. Within hours, the ancient signal broadcasted from Zephyr Prime's most powerful transmitter. The message traveled faster than light, reaching distant star systems in waves. Most species that received it ignored the strange transmission. But on a small blue planet in a quiet spiral arm of the galaxy, someone was listening. Admiral Chen Wei sat in the communication center of Earth's newest space station. The 50-year-old woman had short black hair, streaked with gray and steady dark eyes. She had been reviewing supply reports when the transmission came through. Admiral, we're receiving something unusual, said Lieutenant Kim, the young communications officer. It's not from any known human source, and the signal is incredibly strong. Someone used a lot of power to send this. Chen moved to Kim's station. The translator software worked frantically to decode the alien language. Slowly, words appeared on the screen. As Chen read, her expression grew serious. To any who can hear this message across the dark between stars, we are the Zephyrian Alliance. We are a peaceful people who have never harmed others. Now, we face destruction from those who kill for pleasure. Our children will be enslaved. Our elders will be murdered. We call upon the ancient pact. We need protectors from the death worlds. Please help us. The message included star charts and tactical information about the Vrak Empire. Chen studied the data for several minutes. The aliens requesting help were clearly outmatched. Their technology was advanced in some ways, but their weapons were designed for defense, not war. Sir, should I report this to Earth Command? Kim asked. Yes, but also patch me through to the President's office. This is bigger than military protocol. Within 6 hours, the message had reached every major government on Earth. The response was swift and unanimous. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years earlier. Their space fleet was small, with just 12 ships capable of interstellar travel. President Martinez addressed the world that evening. We have received a call for help from beings we have never met. They face extinction from attackers who kill innocent people for sport. Some will ask why we should risk our lives for aliens. I say, we do it because it is right. We do it because someone must stand up for those who cannot defend themselves. The debate in the United Nations lasted only 3 hours. Earth would send its entire available fleet to help the Zephyrians. Admiral Chen would command the mission personally. Dr. Yuna Park, Earth's leading expert in xenobiology, joined the mission at the last minute. The 35-year-old scientist had studied every piece of alien data in the message. If we're going to make contact with multiple alien species, we need someone who understands how different biologies might affect behavior and communication, she told Admiral Chen. As Earth's small fleet prepared to depart, intelligence reports painted a grim picture. The Vrak Empire had conquered dozens of systems. Their ships were larger and more numerous than anything humanity could field. Their ground forces were described as brutal predators who took pleasure in causing fear. "Are you sure about this, Admiral?" asked Captain Rodriguez of the UES Defender. "We'll be outnumbered at least 10 to 1. Chen looked out at the stars through the observation deck window. The Zephyrians sent that message because they believe Deathworld protectors exist. They believe beings like us will come to help them even when we have nothing to gain. We're going to prove they were right to believe." The human fleet consisted of 8 warships and 4 support vessels. Each ship carried equipment designed for exploration and light combat, not major warfare. The crews were experienced but had never faced anything like the Vrak Empire. As the ships entered hyperspace, heading for the Zephyrian system, Admiral Chen recorded a message for Earth. "If anyone receives this log, know that we go willingly, to help people we have never met. We go because protecting innocent life is worth any risk. We go because this is what humans do when others need us." The journey would take 10 days at maximum speed. Behind them, Earth's remaining ships worked frantically to prepare reinforcements. Ahead of them, the Zephyrian Alliance counted down their final hours before the Vrak Empire's main fleet arrived. In the depths of space, 2 very different ideas of strength were about to collide. The Vrak believed might made right. The humans believed right made might. Soon, the galaxy would learn which philosophy was stronger. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, watching the tactical display update with new contacts. Dozens of alien ships moved in defensive formations around the inner planets. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Park at the sensor station. "Look at the size of those vessels." The Zephyrian ships were massive, elegant structures that looked more like floating cities than warships. Their smooth curves and gleaming surfaces reflected the light of the system's twin suns. They were beautiful, but even from a distance, Chen could tell they were not built for serious combat. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the largest vessel," reported Communications Officer Kim. The main screen flickered, then displayed the face of an alien being. Council Leader Keth had pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and features that seemed almost elfin. When he spoke, the translation software converted his melodic voice into accented English. "Welcome, travelers from the distant stars. I am Keth of the Zephyrian Alliance. We are grateful that you answered our call, though I fear you may have traveled far for nothing." Dr. Yuna Park stepped forward. As the mission's xenobiologist, she had practiced first contact protocols for weeks. "Greetings, Council Leader Keth. I am Dr. Park, representing humanity. We received your message and came to offer assistance." Keth's expression showed surprise and concern. "Humanity? You call your species by a word that means compassion in our language. How fitting." He paused, studying the humans on the screen. "But I must ask, where are your warriors? Where are the Deathworld protectors we called for?" Admiral Chen joined Dr. Park in front of the camera. "I am Admiral Chen, commander of this fleet. We are the ones who answered your call." The alien leader's face showed polite confusion. "Forgive me, but you appear quite small and soft. Where are your natural weapons? Your armor? Your intimidating features? Dr. Park smiled gently. We evolved differently than you might expect. May we come aboard your ship? It would be easier to explain in person. Within 2 hours, a human shuttle docked with the Zephyrian command vessel. Dr. Park, Admiral Chen, and a small diplomatic team entered the alien ship. The corridors were wide and filled with soft light. Everything was designed for tall, graceful beings who moved with fluid motions. The meeting room held 20 Zephyrian officials. They were all similar to Keth, with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Their clothing was elegant, flowing, and clearly ceremonial rather than practical. Please. Sit. Keth gestured to chairs that had been quickly adjusted for human proportions. Tell us about your people. Dr. Park activated a portable hologram projector. Images of Earth appeared in the air between them. We come from a planet we call Earth, though your systems would classify it as a Class 12 Deathworld. The Zephyrians gasped. Keth leaned forward. A Class 12? But that means your world actively tries to kill anything living on it. Yes, Park replied calmly. Our planet has ice ages, supervolcanoes, massive storms, deadly predators, poisonous plants, and natural disasters that can destroy entire continents. We evolved to survive in these conditions. I see, said Keth slowly. So you are used to death. You can face it without fear because it has always been part of your existence. Admiral Chen shook her head. Not quite. We don't seek death or accept it easily. We learn to fight against it. Every human alive today carries the genetics of survivors who refuse to give up when everything seemed hopeless. The hologram shifted to show human cities, armies, and technology. The Zephyrians watched with growing amazement as they saw humans living in every climate on Earth, from frozen polar regions to burning deserts. Your people spread across your entire planet? Asked Dr. Vell, a young Zephyrian scientist. Especially the dangerous parts, Park replied. We learned that hiding from danger only works for a short time. Eventually, you have to face it directly. Admiral Chen brought up tactical displays showing human military doctrine. We studied your situation during our journey here. The Vrak Empire uses fear and brutality to control their enemies. They expect you to surrender when faced with overwhelming force. And we probably will, Keth admitted sadly. We are not fighters. Our people evolved as gatherers and builders. We have lived in peace for thousands of years. That's exactly why we came, Chen said firmly. Someone needs to protect people who choose peace. Someone needs to stand up to bullies who think might makes right. Dr. Vell's eyes grew even larger. But you have only 12 ships. The Vrak will come with hundreds. How can you possibly fight so many? Dr. Park and Admiral Chen exchanged glances. On our world, we have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. I don't understand, Keth said. It means, Admiral Chen explained, that determination and courage matter more than size or numbers. The Vrak expect you to run when they threaten you. They don't expect someone to threaten them back. A Zephyrian aide rushed into the room. Council leader, our long-range sensors detect a massive fleet approaching. The Vrak Empire's advance forces will arrive in 6 hours. The room fell silent. Keth turned to the humans with sadness in his large eyes. My friends, you have traveled far to help us, and we are grateful. But I cannot ask you to die for people you have never met. Your ships should leave while you still can. Admiral Chen stood up slowly. Her expression was calm, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. With respect, Council Leader, you don't understand humans very well yet. We didn't come here to run away when things get difficult. But you'll be destroyed, Vell protested. Your families will never see you again. Dr. Park smiled sadly. Before we left Earth, Each of us recorded messages for our families. We told them we might not come back. And every single person on every ship volunteered anyway. Why? Keth asked in wonder. Admiral Chen moved to the window, looking out at the stars. Because somewhere out there, children are hiding in fear, while monsters plan to hurt them. Because people who never did anything wrong are about to die just for being in the way. Because if we don't stand up to evil when we see it, we're not really human anymore. 3. End quote. The Zephyrians stared at these strange aliens who looked soft and small, but spoke with the voices of people who had made peace with death. They were beginning to understand that they had called the right protectors after all. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The Vrak fleet had arrived early. The Vrak fleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark storm cloud. 50 massive ships, all painted in intimidating black and red colors, took aggressive formations throughout the Zephyrian system. Each vessel was twice the size of the largest Zephyrian ship and bristled with weapon ports. Admiral Chen had returned to her flagship when the enemy arrived. She stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display update with new contacts. The numbers were worse than expected. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the lead Vrak vessel," reported Communications Officer Kim. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made several crew members take involuntary steps backward. Warlord Thex was a massive being, nearly 8 feet tall, with dark gray skin, powerful muscles, and rows of sharp teeth. His armor was decorated with trophies from defeated enemies. When he spoke, his voice was a low growl. "I am Warlord Thex of the glorious Vrak Empire. Zephyrian weaklings, your time of hiding is over. Surrender now, and some of you may live as slaves. Resist and we will make examples of your young." The transmission shifted to show the interior of a Vrak ship. Human crew members watched in horror as cages filled with captured beings from other conquered worlds were displayed. Many were children. "You have 1 hour to surrender completely," Thex continued. "Any ship that moves will be destroyed. Any planet that resists will be bombarded until nothing lives." The communication ended. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of instruments. "Admiral," said Captain Rodriguez over the comm from the UES Defender, "those aren't military targets in those cages. They're civilians. Children." Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. "I know. All ships, form defensive formation around the evacuation vessels. We need to buy time for the Zephyrians to get their people to safety." "Ma'am," Lieutenant Park said quietly, "the Vrak fleet is moving. They're not waiting for their deadline." On the main screen, the massive alien warships began advancing toward the inner system. But they weren't heading for the Zephyrian military vessels. They were moving directly toward the evacuation ships filled with civilians. "That bastard," Admiral Chen said under her breath. "He's going to attack the helpless ones first. He wants to break their spirits before the real fight begins." Dr. Yuna Park, monitoring communications from the Zephyrian vessels, looked up from her station. "Admiral, Council Leader Keth is ordering all military ships to retreat. He says, protecting the evacuation vessels is more important than fighting." "The hell with that." Chen turned to her tactical officer. "Send new orders to all human ships. We're moving to intercept the Vrak advance. Maximum acceleration." "Admiral." The tactical officer hesitated. "That puts us directly between the enemy fleet and their targets. We'll be outnumbered 25-1. Then we better make every shot count." Chen opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. The enemy is targeting civilian evacuation vessels. We're going to stop them. Remember your training. Remember why we came here. And remember that sometimes doing the right thing means doing the impossible. We have 2,000. There's a bod. We're going to stop them." The human fleet shot forward at full speed. their smaller ships more maneuverable than the massive Vrak vessels. They reached the evacuation zone, just as the first enemy ships came within weapon range. "Incoming fire," reported the tactical officer. The Vrak opened fire with massive energy weapons that lit up the darkness of space. The first volleys missed as human pilots used their superior maneuverability to dodge between the heavy beams. "Return fire," Admiral Chen ordered. Human weapons, smaller but more precise, began striking Vrak ships. The enemy vessels had powerful shields, but human gunners targeted specific points, looking for weaknesses. Captain Martinez of the UES Courage found the first gap. "Admiral, I'm reading shield fluctuations on the lead enemy ship. Their generators can't handle rapid frequency changes. All ships, adjust weapon frequencies every 3 seconds. Keep them from adapting." The tactic worked better than expected. Vrak technology was powerful, but not flexible. Their shields were designed to stop large, straightforward attacks. Human weapons that constantly changed their energy patterns began breaking through. But the real shock came when the first Vrak ship was damaged enough to drop its shields completely. Instead of retreating, the human vessel, UES Justice, accelerated directly toward the enemy ship. "Captain Thompson, what are you doing?" Chen demanded over the comm. "Ramming speed, Admiral. If we can't outgun them, we'll out-crazy them." The human ship struck the Vrak vessel at full speed, tearing through its hull. Both ships were destroyed in the explosion, but the blast took out 2 more enemy vessels that were too close. Across the Vrak fleet, commanders stared in shock. The small alien ships weren't trying to win through superior firepower. They were using their own vessels as weapons. "Impossible," growled Warlord Thex from his command bridge. No rational being would sacrifice their own ship unless they were cornered with no escape. His tactical officer studied the readings. "Sir, the small ships are faster than ours. They could retreat if they wanted. They're choosing to stay and fight." On the human flagship, Admiral Chen watched as more of her ships took damage. They were buying time for the evacuation vessels, but the cost was high. "Admiral," Dr. Park called from her station, "I'm monitoring Vrak communications. They're confused. Their commanders keep asking why we're not retreating." "Good. Confusion is a weapon we can use." Chen opened a channel to the remaining human ships. "All vessels. The enemy doesn't understand our tactics, because they've never fought people who care more about others than themselves. Press the attack. Make them remember this day." The human ship, UES Liberty, badly damaged and losing power, suddenly accelerated toward a cluster of Vrak vessels. Captain Kim's voice came over the comm, calm, despite the circumstances. "Tell my family I kept my promise. Tell the Zephyrians that someone stood up for them." The explosion when Liberty struck the enemy formation was visible from 3 star systems away. 5 Vrak ships were destroyed instantly, and 7 more were damaged beyond combat effectiveness. Warlord Thex's roar of rage echoed through his ship. "What are these creatures? They fight like they have no fear of death." His science officer checked the data from the first exchange. "Sir, according to our intelligence, they come from a Class 12 death world. They may literally have no fear of death." "Then we'll show them something worse than death," Thex snarled. He opened a channel to his entire fleet. "All ships. Target the civilian evacuation vessels. Kill them all. Show these fools what happens when someone defies the Vrak Empire." But as the Vrak ships turned toward the defenseless civilians, something changed in the human fleet. Every remaining ship suddenly accelerated, not away from the overwhelming enemy force, but directly toward it. Admiral Chen's voice came over all frequencies, human and alien alike. Her tone was ice cold and absolutely certain. "You want to hurt innocent people? You'll have to go through us first. And I promise you, we're going to make you pay for every single life you've taken." What the Vrak Empire had mistaken for desperate courage was about to become focused, calculated rage. The moment Warlord Thex ordered the attack on civilian ships, something fundamental changed in the human fleet. Admiral Chen felt it happen. A shift from defensive tactics to something much more dangerous. All ships, new rules of engagement, she broadcast to her fleet. We're not just protecting the evacuation vessels anymore. We're ending this threat permanently. The human ships regrouped with movements that defied conventional military tactics. Instead of maintaining safe distances, they closed with the enemy at suicidal speeds. Instead of preserving their vessels for long-term warfare, they began using them as expendable weapons. Captain Rodriguez of the UES Defender had lost half his crew to Vrak weapons fire, but his ship still had engines and attitude control. Admiral, my weapons are offline, but I still have ramming speed. Negative, Rodriguez. I need you for something else. Chen studied the tactical display. All remaining ships, focus fire on the Vrak command vessel. I want Thex to see what happens when humans get angry. The concentrated human attack struck Warlord Thex's flagship like a focused storm. Human weapons, smaller than Vrak guns but far more precise, began systematically destroying the massive ship's weapon systems. Each hit was calculated for maximum damage. Impossible! Thex roared on his bridge. How can such tiny weapons be so effective? His tactical officer studied the attack patterns with growing alarm. Sir, they're not using random targeting. Each shot is placed to cause cascading failures in our systems. They understand our technology better than we do. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. During their journey to the Zephyrian system, human engineers had studied every piece of captured Vrak technology in the intelligence files. Where Vrak engineers built for maximum power, humans looked for weaknesses and failure points. Dr. Yuna Park, monitoring enemy communications from the human flagship, made a discovery that changed everything. Admiral, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the edge of the system. The main Vrak fleet is arriving. On the long-range sensors, 50 more Vrak ships dropped out of hyperspace. The advance force had been just the beginning. The real invasion fleet was 3 times larger than anything the humans had faced. Admiral, Captain Martinez called from the UES Courage. We're outnumbered 100 to 1 now. Maybe we should consider retreat. Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the Zephyrian evacuation vessels. Half the civilian ships were still loading refugees. No. These people trusted us to protect them. We don't abandon people who trust us. The human fleet, reduced to 6 operational ships, formed a defensive line between the massive Vrak armada and the evacuation zone. It was a gesture that should have been futile. But the Vrak commanders hesitated. What are they doing? Demanded Admiral Krex, commander of the main Vrak fleet. He studied the tactical readings with confusion. 6 tiny ships against 100 battle cruisers? Warlord Thex, his flagship badly damaged but still functional, answered with growing respect for the enemy. But I've never seen anyone willing to die so completely for strangers. The human ships began moving in patterns that violated every rule of space combat. They used debris from destroyed vessels as improvised weapons. They flew through radiation zones that should have been fatal. They conducted maneuvers at accelerations that should have killed their crews. Captain Rodriguez, his ship held together by emergency patches and determination, found himself facing 3 Vrak cruisers simultaneously. Admiral, I'm going to try something stupid. Define stupid. Rodriguez, I'm going to ram all 3 of them at once. Rodriguez fired his remaining missiles at the asteroid field nearby, breaking apart several large rocks. Then, he used his ship's engines to push the largest asteroid directly at the Vrak formation. When they moved to avoid the collision, he was waiting for them. The UES Defender struck all 3 enemy ships in a chain reaction that turned a quarter of the battlefield into an expanding cloud of debris. Rodriguez's last transmission was calm and satisfied. Tell my kids. Their dad went out swinging. Across the Vrak fleet, something unprecedented began to happen. Ships that had conquered dozens of star systems started showing hesitation. Commanders who had never retreated from battle began questioning their orders. Sir, the tactical officer on Admiral Krex's ship reported, our crews are requesting permission to withdraw. They say fighting these humans is like fighting natural disasters. There's no way to intimidate or reason with them. Dr. Una Park, now coordinating defensive fire from the human flagship, intercepted Vrak military communications. What she heard made her blood run cold. Admiral, the enemy is receiving new orders. They're abandoning military targets entirely. What do you mean? They're planning to destroy the entire Zephyrian homeworld. Complete planetary bombardment. They'd rather commit genocide than fight us, ship to ship. Admiral Chen felt something break inside her chest. The careful, professional naval officer who had started this battle was gone. What remained was something much more dangerous. Kim, open a channel to the entire Vrak fleet. When the communication was established, Admiral Chen's face filled screens throughout the enemy armada. Her voice was soft, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. This is Admiral Chen of the human fleet. You came here to enslave and murder innocent people. We came here to stop you. You have one chance to withdraw from this system immediately. If you harm a single Zephyrian civilian, we will hunt down every Vrak ship in the galaxy and turn them into scrap metal. Warlord Thex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Bold words from someone who has 3 ships left against 100. Admiral Chen smiled, and everyone who saw that expression felt a chill of pure terror. 3 ships? You miscounted. We have something much more dangerous than ships now. What could be more dangerous? Humans who have nothing left to lose, and plenty of reasons to be angry. Chen cut the communication and turned to her crew. All stations, prepare for final engagement. We're going to show them why evolution produced us on a death world. The remaining human ships began accelerating directly toward the Vrak fleet, not away from it. They moved with the terrible purpose of predators who had decided that everything in front of them needed to die. What followed would be remembered in galactic history as the moment when a peaceful galaxy learned that somewhere among the stars, Deathworld survivors stood ready to do whatever was necessary to protect the innocent. The final battle began when Admiral Chen gave the order that would echo through galactic history. All ships, full attack. Show them what Deathworld rage really means. The 3 remaining human vessels accelerated toward the massive Vrak armada with the focused intensity of a force of nature. They had abandoned all defensive tactics, all thoughts of survival, all conventional military wisdom. What remained was pure, calculated fury. The UES Determination, Admiral Chen's flagship, led the charge directly at Warlord Thex's command ship. The crew had rerouted all power from life support to weapons and engines. They had perhaps 20 minutes of breathable air left, but they only needed 10. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Park from the weapons station, all missiles armed with modified warheads. Dr. Park's frequency modulators are installed. Fire everything. Don't save anything for the trip home. The human weapons struck the Vrak flagship with impossible precision. Each missile hit exactly where it would cause the most catastrophic damage. The massive enemy ship, designed to intimidate through sheer size, began breaking apart under surgical strikes at its structural weak points. Warlord Thex, thrown to his knees by the impacts, stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. How are they doing this? Their weapons are 1/10 the size of ours. His science officer checked the damage reports with growing panic. Sir, they're not trying to overpower our defenses. They're using our own technology against us. Every hit creates chain reactions in our power systems. The truth was that Dr. Una Park had spent the entire battle analyzing Vrak energy signatures. Human weapons couldn't match alien firepower. but they could be tuned to exploit specific frequencies that caused Vrak systems to destroy themselves. But the real terror began when the human ships started using tactics that no sane military force would attempt. The UES Vengeance, down to emergency power and a crew of 12, flew directly into the middle of a Vrak formation and detonated its own reactor core. The explosion took out 6 enemy ships and damaged a dozen more. More importantly, it sent a message to every Vrak commander. These aliens were willing to turn themselves into weapons rather than allow harm to come to innocent people. Sir, I'm reading massive casualties across our fleet, Admiral Krex's tactical officer reported. The enemy has destroyed 40% of our ships with only 3 vessels. That's impossible. Not impossible, sir. Unprecedented. They're fighting like beings who consider death an acceptable outcome as long as they complete their mission. Captain Martinez of the UES Courage, his ship barely functional, found himself facing the enemy command vessel. Half his crew was dead, his weapons were offline, and his ship was leaking atmosphere. By any reasonable standard, he should have retreated. Instead, he opened a channel to Warlord Thex personally. This is Captain Martinez of Earth. You wanted to kill children to make a point. Let me make a point of my own. The UES Courage accelerated to ramming speed, heading directly for the Vrak command bridge. Thex's crew frantically tried to destroy the approaching ship, but human damage control teams had bypassed so many safety systems that the vessel held together through impact. The collision destroyed both ships instantly. But not before Captain Martinez's final transmission reached every vessel in the system. Tell the galaxy that humans keep their promises. Admiral Chen, now commanding the last operational human ship with a crew of 38, faced the remaining Vrak fleet alone. 60 enemy vessels surrounded her. But instead of demanding surrender, she opened a communication to the entire alien armada. This is Admiral Chen. You came here to prove that might makes right. You came here to show peaceful people that violence always wins. You were wrong. On his backup command ship, Warlord Thex studied the tactical situation, one tiny alien vessel against his entire remaining fleet. By every military calculation, the battle was over. But something in the human admiral's voice made him hesitate. You can destroy my ship, Chen continued. But you can't change what happened here. You sent your most powerful fleet against civilians, and 3 human ships stopped you. Every species in this galaxy is going to hear about this day. Dr. Yuna Park, still coordinating communications, made one final discovery. Admiral, I'm detecting incoming hyperspace signatures. Multiple fleets. Unknown origin. On the edge of the system, ships began dropping out of hyperspace. Not Vrak vessels, but alien designs that none of the combatants recognized. The new arrivals broadcasted a simple message in dozens of languages. We are the Protectorate Alliance. We received word that Deathworld protectors had answered an ancient call. We came to stand with them. More fleets arrived. Species that had hidden from the Vrak Empire for generations. Inspired by news that someone had finally stood up to the great threat. Ships from civilizations that had been afraid to fight alone but were willing to fight together. Warlord Thex watched his tactical display fill with hundreds of new contacts, all hostile. His science officer's report confirmed his worst fears. Sir, we're receiving similar reports from across the Empire. Every species we've conquered is rising up. They're calling for their own Deathworld protectors. The communication channels filled with a new voice. Council Leader Keth, speaking from the Zephyrian homeworld, addressed the entire system. Today, we learned what the ancient signal truly meant. It does not summon beings who are comfortable with death. It summons beings who are willing to die rather than allow evil to triumph. The Vrak Empire is finished. The final moment came when Admiral Chen, her ship surrounded but not yet destroyed, made an offer to the enemy fleet. Warlord Thex, I'll give you one chance. Surrender your entire fleet and return all prisoners you've taken. Accept exile from civilized space. Do this, and you and your crews can leave with your lives. The massive alien warlord, master of 100 conquered worlds, looked at the tiny human ship that had destroyed his empire with nothing but courage and determination. For the first time in his life, he understood what true strength looked like. "Why?" he asked over the open channel. "Why would you offer mercy to an enemy who showed you none?" Admiral Chen's answer became the foundation of human philosophy throughout the galaxy. Because that's what separates protectors from predators. We fight to defend, not to destroy. We kill to save lives, not to take them. And when the fighting is over, we choose mercy because that's what our children would want us to choose. The Vrak Empire surrendered. The prisoners were freed. The conquered worlds were liberated. And across the galaxy, peaceful species who had lived in fear for generations began to hope again. When the human fleet finally returned to Earth, they brought with them representatives from dozens of grateful civilizations. The small blue planet that had answered an ancient call for help found itself at the center of a new galactic alliance built on the simple principle that protecting innocent life was worth any sacrifice. Dr. Una Park, now Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Protectorate, often told the story of humanity's first contact with alien civilizations. She always ended with the same words. The Zephyrians thought they were calling for warriors from Deathworlds. What they actually called were ordinary people who refused to let evil win. And sometimes,